Welcome back. Reading Bible Loke. Esther 5 is where we're going to start off. I really need these, trying to clean them up. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace. Oh, yeah, this is after all that back and forth, right? Yeah, there was like hella back and forth. On the third day, yeah, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace opposite his throne. The king was sitting on his royal throne facing the main entrance of the palace. I wonder why that was important. When the king saw Esther the queen standing in court, she found favor. And the king extended to her the golden scepter which was in his hand. Alright, so they already had told us about how important the scepter was. So Esther approached and touched the top of the scepter. Then the king said to her, "What is troubling you, queen? What is your request? It shall be given to you." "Up to half of the kingdom," Esther said. "If it pleases the king, may the king and Haman come this day to the banquet that I have prepared for him." Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly so that we may do as Esther says." So the king and Haman came to the banquet which Esther had prepared. As they drank wine at the banquet, the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? It shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Even to half of the kingdom it shall be done." So you can have whatever you want, everything up to 50%. Got it. "My petition and my request is this. If I have found favor in the sight of the king," I always say that, man. It's how you ask sometimes. It's how you ask. Like, she just didn't run up on the king. She didn't have to, you know what I'm saying? This whole scepter and all that. She didn't have to do all that. She didn't have to wait. But she wanted that favor. She worked for that favor, man. I think we got to do that. Not only in life, I just think with God, too. Sometimes, I'll say a lot like, talk to him today. But I think if I put a little more, like if I read the Bible a little bit more and I know a little bit more of his words, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Let's get back to it. We'll start back at 8:5-8. "If I have found favor in the sight of the king and it pleases my king." Like, she ain't even have to. I'm going to say again, she ain't have to do all that. He picked her out of all the chicks that had been groomed for a year. You feel me? She ain't have to do all that. She ain't have to do all that. You know what I'm saying? All right. "And if it pleases the king to grant my petition and to do as I request, may the king and Haman come to the banquet that I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king says." Haman went away that day joyful and in good spirits. But when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate refusing to stand up or show fear before him, he was filled with rage. Nevertheless, Haman controlled himself and went home. There he sent for his friends and his wife. Then Haman recounted to them the glory of his riches. What's going on? I mean, I know he drunk. It said he still made it home. Yeah. His riches, how many sons he had, and every instance in which the king had magnified him and how he had promoted him over the officials and servants of the king. Haman also said, Even Queen Esther let no one but me come with the king to the banquet she had prepared, and tomorrow also I am invited by her with the king. Yet all of this does not satisfy me as long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate. Why that bother you, bruh? Yeah, I hear you. So Zeresh, his wife, said, "Have a gallows 50 cubits high made, and in the morning ask the king to have Mordecai hung on it. Then joyfully go to the banquet with the king." And the advice pleased Haman, so he had the gallows made. I got enough time to read this. I'll probably stop after I read this. On that night, the king could not sleep. So he ordered that the book of records and memorable deeds, the chronicles, be brought, and they were read before the king. It was found written there how Mordecai had reported to, is that the eunuchs? Yeah, who were the doorkeepers, who they was trying to kill him. I don't know who writing all this and taking notes and all that stuff like that, man. You burn, ain't no record, none of that. But anyway, the king said, "What honor or distinction has been given Mordecai for this?" Then the king's servants who attended him said, "Nothing has been done for him." So the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman had just entered the outer court. Let me back up because I'm just reading. Let me see. All right, so he read it. Now he's like, "What honor?" Because Mordecai brought this up to me. All right, so we ain't show Mordecai no love. Okay, so now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace to ask the king about hanging Mordecai on the gallows which he had prepared for him. Did the king even know about it? Because he said it pleased Zeresh, his wife. Let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, "What is to be done for the man whom the king desires to honor?" Now Haman thought to himself, he probably talking about me. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know what this about to say. He thought to himself, "Whom would the king desire to honor more than me?" So Haman said to the king, "For the man who the king desires to honor, let a royal robe be brought, which the king is worn, and the horse on which the king is ridden, on whose head a royal crown has been placed, and let the robe and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials. Let him dress the man who king delights to honor, and lead him on horseback through the open square of the city, and proclaim before him, 'This is what shall be done for the man who the king desires to honor.'" Then the king said to Haman, "Quickly take the royal robe and the horse, as you have said, and do this for Mordecai the Jew." Who's sitting at the king gate? You know where he at. Leave out nothing of all that you have said. So Haman took the royal robe and the horse, dressed Mordecai, and led him on horseback through the open square of the city. "This is what shall be done for the man whom the king desires to honor." Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman returned to his own house, mourning with his head covered in sorrow. He told his wife and his friends, so he talk a lot. It might not even. Then his wise counselors said to him, "If Mordecai before whom you have hung, have you begun to fall into status, is of Jewish heritage, you will not overcome him, but you will certainly fall before him." While they were still talking to him, the eunuchs arrived and brought Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared. It says hurriedly. So they're going to knock him off, bro. They're going to knock him off. Let me read it real quick. So the king and Haman came to drink wine with Esther the queen, and the king said to Esther on the second day, also as they drank wine, They really shout out to Xerxes. We really. What is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted to you, and what is your request? Even to half of the kingdom it shall be done. Then Queen Esther replied, he keep throwing that half in there. Why you gotta keep saying that? That's gonna irritate a woman. I don't know. I've been in a relationship. Oh, you gonna keep reminding me? Yeah, I know what it is. That's I don't know. You all right? If I have found favor in your sight, O King, and it pleases the King, let my life be spared as my petition, and my people spared as my request. For we have been sold, I and my people destroyed, killed, wiped out. Now, if we had only been slaves, men and women, I would have remained silent. For our hardship would not be sufficient to burden the king by even mentioning it. Who is he? Where is he? Who dares do such a thing? An adversary. Why can't I say that right now? An enemy is Haman. This is an evil man. Haman comes up. King stood up from drinking wine. He had to stop drinking wine. He got me mad. But Haman stayed to plead for his life. Okay. I know he's gonna die, but how he gonna die? That's what I just want to see. I don't want to keep you too long. Okay, the servants covered Haman's face. Okay, so they hung him on the gallows. He thought he was gonna hang Mordecai on. And then the king's anger subsided. Mm. All right, that's it for reading Bible Loc. Until next time.